Hello, my name is Lincoln Kallsen, and I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Institutional Analysis for the University of Minnesota. Today I will be talking about the University of Minnesota's systems context for tuition and fees. As you have seen in other university presentations, the university's $3.9 billion budget is funded from a wide variety of revenue sources. Tuition now makes up around $1 billion of revenue, or approximately a quarter of the university's overall budget. Tuition supports all of the programs at the university: undergraduate, graduate, and professional. About half of the university's tuition revenue is generated from Twin Cities undergraduate programs. Another 15% is generated on the Crookston, Duluth, Morris, and Rochester campuses, and is also primarily undergraduate tuition. And the remaining 35% is generated by the wide variety of graduate and professional programs at the university. Of the undergraduate tuition on the Twin Cities campus, nearly 1/3 is generated from non-resident, non-reciprocity students, with the remainder coming from resident and reciprocity students. The university has worked over the last decade in partnership with the legislature and governor to keep undergraduate resident tuition rates as low as possible. This chart shows the annual tuition growth percentage for all of the University of Minnesota campuses. The average annual increase of 1.3% on the Twin Cities campus and about 0.5% on the Crookston, Duluth, Morris, and Rochester campuses are all below the rate of inflation for this time period. This chart shows the published Big Ten resident tuition and fee rates, the tuition increase from the previous year, and the total cost of attendance for each campus. The total cost of attendance includes tuition and fees, housing and dining costs, books and other purchased learning materials, transportation, and miscellaneous student costs. The university's resident tuition rate is in the middle of the Big Ten, as it has been for several years. These are the published Big Ten rates for non-resident students. While the University of Minnesota was 8th on this chart last year, tuition increases were frozen for all students in 2020-21, while Ohio State and Illinois increased tuition, thus placing us 10th on this list today. The university continues to climb towards the middle of the Big Ten with regard to non-resident tuition rates as well. These are the current tuition and fee rates for the Crookston, Duluth, Morris, and Rochester campuses, along with the published tuition and fee rates for the four-year Minnesota State universities. At the bottom are a selection of regional universities and the current published tuition and fee rates faced by Minnesota residents wishing to attend, as determined by the slightly different reciprocity agreements with each state. This slide has the current per semester student service fees and last year's annual increase for each campus. These are determined through campus-based student-led committees and processes. The administrative and health services component includes resources to support student recreation and fitness centers, campus-based student health organizations such as Boynton Health Services, student unions and activities, and capital projects related to these activities. The student activities and organizations component supports several dozen different types of student-run organizations, student-run newspapers and media, and student government. Like tuition, the university also froze all student fee increases this past year. Published tuition and fees, along with other student costs and the total cost of attendance, can be offset by a variety of gift aid that the student and his or her family do not have to repay. These types of aid can include Pell Grants, but also the state's own Minnesota State Grant Program, university programs such as our new free tuition program for Minnesota families making under $50,000 a year, or our established Promise program, which aids Minnesota students and families making up to $120,000 per year, as well as scholarships provided by our generous university donors. One result of all this is an examination of net price, which is simply the total cost of attendance minus all gift aid that does not have to be repaid. This chart shows the average net price for students and families making less than $75,000 per year in the dashed bars, and the average net price for students and families making less than $110,000 in the solid bars. What this chart shows is that for a majority of Minnesotans making under $110,000, the University of Minnesota campuses are among the most affordable four-year campuses in Minnesota, public or private. And among families making less than $75,000, approximately the state's median family income, all of the University of Minnesota campuses very often are the most affordable choices a Minnesota family can make. The university is also constantly aware of average student loan debt and is working to reduce it for Minnesota students. This includes President Gabel's renewed commitment to continue to reduce student loan debt as part of her newly adopted strategic plan. All of the University of Minnesota campuses are below the statewide average for average student loan debt for those students that have debt. Nearly 40% of our students system-wide leave without any undergraduate debt. Finally, the University of Minnesota embraces four-year graduation goals, not only so that students enter the workforce in a timely way, but also as one of the best ways to reduce overall student debt. The Twin Cities four-year graduation rate has increased by nearly 25 percentage points in the past 10 years, which we estimate alone has reduced total loan debt by $19 to $23 million, and saving the average student and family $6,000 or more versus attending for a fifth or sixth year. Thank you for taking the time to review this presentation, and thank you for your support of the University of Minnesota.